I want to speak to dads today. We are celebrating our fathers. I'm so thankful for the dads that we have who have come in, week out, and the responsibility that they show to us here as men. I want to say this. When it comes to Father's Day, we cannot do a Father's Day without doing dad jokes, right? Okay, now, I'm going to do two. Number one, here we go. Why do cows wear horns? Or, sorry, this is where you go. I'm already messed it up. Just erase that, okay? So if you're watching this online, just pretend like you didn't hear. Here we go again. Why do cows wear bells? Because their horns don't work. All right, see, we'll get it. All right, number two. I won't give you the punchline first. Here we go. What kind of shoes do frogs wear? Open-toed sandals. All right. Now, I've got to be honest. My dad was never much of a dad joke man. My dad really didn't do dad jokes. He would chuckle at all the other guys who would do it, but he was never that guy. My dad was the dad advice man. He liked to give advice, and if you ever had dad advice, I'm not going to vouch for it, but here's some of the dad advice that my dad, for growing up, and by the way, this is only a snapshot of some of the advice that he gave to me. Some of it, I still hold on to it. Some of it might be a bit questionable, so I'm not going to vouch for it, but here we go. Here's some of the advice that my dad gave. He would say this: a rut is a grave with both ends knocked out. Okay, I haven't quite figured out, is that a good thing or a bad thing yet? I'm still trying to work it out. But that was what he used to say. A rut is a grave with both ends knocked out. Number two, all's well that ends in a well. I think what he was trying to say was that life is just what it is. That's what I'm going with, because I really still am trying to figure that one out as well. Number three, by the way, I'm very found this one. I understand what he was saying, but it's probably not the best advice, but I'm going to give it to you anyhow, just to say all dads cannot always give the most brilliant advice, but he used to say this: act like you know what you're doing even if you don't, because nobody else knows what they're doing either. I understand what he was trying to teach me. However, I've got to be honest with you. It is probably not the best advice, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's better to ask and find out how to do as opposed to pretend like. That's, Dad, I love you, but it was probably not the best advice you ever gave me. Number five, do right because it is right to do. I can remember my dad drumming this into my head from a child. James, just do right because it's right to do. Just do right because it's right to do. Number six, here's the last one I'm going to do. Dad advice that he gave. He'd always say this: an excuse is the skin of a reason stuffed with a lie. Okay. And by the way, my dad had a whole lot more going, but these are some of the ones that just, if I stop for a moment and think about my dad, these are some of the advice. If there was something going on, that one of these things would come out. When it comes to what a dad is and what does it mean to be a man, my dad is the one who has influenced me the most, and he is who I aspire to be. So, today, as we talk to dads, I'm almost sitting here a little bit afraid, because really where we're going, most of you guys could teach me a thing or two about being a dad. But where I want to go is, instead of simply talking about being a dad, I want to talk about what it means to be a man. What does it mean to be a man? And I want to talk about this not from a perspective of what society tells us, but what does God tell us? What does it mean to be a man? Is a man something about a behavior? Is a man something about our hormones? Is a man someone who takes on responsibilities? The real debate that happens today is a man, are you a man by nature or are you a man by nurture? Now, please hear me out when I say this. This morning, I am not planning on stoking any debates. I'm not planning on stoking the fires of controversy. Instead, I just want to focus on what does God tell us about what a real man is. I want to look at the roles as men that we have been called to, and that the role that many of you over the years have had to learn for yourself. We all know this. The reality of being a man is neither nature or nurture, because it is both. Learning to be a man is both nature and nurture. Now, I'm going to start this morning with this idea of being a man from the perspective of nature. Now, we know in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, we're told this. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. By God's design, he created men and women to be different. God made men and women to be both special and unique. In each of the sexes, he put his image to represent himself. In the man part, God made man unique. Now, if you've ever raised boys, you know this to be true. For those who've raised boys, there comes a moment when we realize that what God did has created this moment when young boys turn into men and something happens. Appetites get bigger. Hair starts sprouting everywhere. They just grow up. I mean, it's like overnight, they just look different. They look like young men or young boys to young men. Not only that, personalities change. They pick up a rambunctious personality where they believe that they are invincible. God made men differently. You didn't need me to tell you that. But what makes a man? We know this, that nature alone does not make a man. We also know that nurture is a part of that equation. Family values and societal expectations shape men into who they become. When I was growing up, there were 3 boys in our family. We are all as distinctly different as you could imagine. I have an older brother who is as patient and laid back as you can imagine. My younger brother's probably a little bit more of a perfectionist, detail-oriented guy. And I'm in the middle, and I am that ADD guy who is literally into everything. If someone in our family was causing trouble or was going to be in trouble, it was me. Now, my dad tried to direct us and shape us into being men. Here's what he did for us. Now, I'm not sure all of it was the same as far as how we picked up certain things, but my dad bought us a pair of boxing gloves to get out some of our energy so we could beat up on each other. My dad got us out on the cars. My dad always bought broken down vehicles because he could never afford a decent one. And so he always bought a broken down car, and we were constantly out pulling motors apart, replacing starter motors, redoing clutches. If there was something to be done to a vehicle, my dad had us out there doing it with him. He made us dig ditches. Hey, we've got to run a water line, and he would get us out digging ditches. He would get us, and he would buy us pets. and then make us take care of them. My dad would get us involved in doing carpentry. He would buy us courses on how to do woodworking. My dad shaped us in what he thought a young man should be. Now, I'm not saying that these are all the aspects of what a young man should be. I'm simply trying to say this is what my dad did and the expectations he had in shaping what a young man looked like. The family that you came from was probably not as rambunctious as our family. You may have come from a family that was much more genteel. You may have had a dad who did not like carpentry and boxing, and he may have got you involved with poetry, doing art. The reality is this, though, is we know that both the reality of what it means to be a man is both shaped by our very nature, and it is shaped by the nurture that you have had. But what does that look like from a biblical perspective? We know that society and we know that our families place all sorts of expectations on young men, some of them fairly, some of them unfairly. But what sort of expectations are placed on us from Scripture? I'm going to go today to a place that is not usually expected to talk about young men. Proverbs 31 is usually known as anyone know? The virtuous woman. And so many sermons over the year have been given to young ladies about what does a young lady should look like. And the reality is that Proverbs 31 was actually given to a man to teach a man how to be a man. In Proverbs chapter 31, we read about how King Lemuel, a young ruler, and we don't know exactly who King Lemuel is. We just know he was a young ruler, and he had a mother who stood up and understood that nature alone was not going to teach her son how to be a man. And so she gave him some advice, and I want to read them to us today. And I'm just going to look at 3 different things. And by the way, you guys as men who have long grown up probably have understood this, and it's probably something you have tried to teach to your sons. But I want to go today, and since we're just looking at a scriptural point of view of what it means to be a man and what it looks like to be a man, we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 31, verses 1 and 2. And I want to read this. Here's what we read. The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired, don't you love the way he says this? This is an inspired utterance his mother taught him. And she said this, listen, my son of my womb, listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. What we're about to read is King Lemuel's mother looking at him and saying, nature did not provide you what you needed to understand to be a man. You need some nurturing, you need some guidance in what it looks like to be a man. And here's where she goes on. Her advice starts like this. Proverbs 31:3. This is one of those big ones that every mother has tried to teach their son from day one. And she says this, do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. What is King Lemuel trying to say? King Lemuel's mother is telling us something we all know from the very start. That nature alone has left young men to being drawn recklessly into physical relationships. Did I need to tell anyone that? That just kind of dawned on you guys for the first time? King Lemuel, his mother understood this, that young men are drawn recklessly into relationships that can harm both him and the young woman that he is pursuing. So she warns him. Don't be that man. King Lemuel, don't be the guy who chases skirts. Be the man who does not cheat, does not play around. Be the man who is faithful to his wife. She starts off and by the way, as much as we know this, every time we pick up a newspaper, we see this problem over and over and over again. As Christian young men, as Christian old men, as Christian men, we need to be men who's responsible to the wife that we married. She looks and she says the consequences are serious and they will hurt you. Learn to control your emotions and your desires. Number one. Number two, she continues. She goes on to say this. Now, if you're teaching a young man something, where would you go from be careful about the young women that you start chasing? Because if you're not, you're going to find yourself in some harmful relationships. What would be her second advice to a young man? You may find this hard to believe, but it is still something we are teaching our young men today. Here's what she says. King Lemuel, it is not for kings. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. You know what King Lemuel's mom understood? Nature does something to young men that leaves them feeling invincible, leaves them feeling like they can do anything. And so many times they find themselves abusing substances or consuming substances that both dulls their senses and makes them reckless. This mother nurtured her son. Watch uncontrolled behavior. Watch what you consume. Don't do things that are going to dull the way you think. You see, King Lemuel's mom was trying to teach him that a good man is one who can control his actions. She doesn't stop there. King Lemuel's mom went from women, wine, and then she says one more. King Lemuel's mother goes one step farther by saying this. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. King Lemuel's mom tells him this. A good man does not keep silent when others are being hurt. You see, she understood that by nature, if we are left to our own devices, what happens? We tend to focus on ourselves. So she nurtured him. Look out and care for those who need help and they need a voice. Look, can I just say this? This advice is still great advice today. What does it mean to be a man? I want to say this. I am thankful for the dad that God put into my life. He was not perfect, but he protected me, he taught me, he loved me. He was someone who took the responsibility and the role of a dad seriously. He passed on words of wisdom that didn't always make sense. Look, for just a few minutes, we looked at advice of what does a good man look like from King Lemuel's mom. What should it look like? For those of us who are dads, is there certain traits that we can still learn? And there is. But today, we're celebrating dads. Dads who come from many walks of life. We celebrate dads who have had dads who taught them how to be dads. We celebrate dads who've had moms who taught them how to be dads. We celebrate dads who stand up and by themselves have had to learn what it means to be a dad. Today we celebrate dads who sometimes make mistakes, but they get back up, get things made right, and they move forward. Today we celebrate dads who love football and ride motorcycles. Today we celebrate dads, those who love poetry and soft slippers. But most importantly, we are celebrating dads who are learning what it means to be a man who loves God and their family. So I just want to say this. Thank you for learning to be a dad.